Hello everyone, I'm Colin Canet. For some time I've been giving you some tips and tricks on things you can do in the workshop. Today I'm going to change things up a little bit. Today I'm going to show you a few things you want to avoid in the workshop. We'll start off with the least. We'll work our way to the worst. Anybody who owns a table saw knows that from time to time we need to make inserts, and sometimes it's to stop wood from falling down there for making really thin cuts. So we make special inserts for that. Maybe it's to a dado, a special size dado that you're cutting, and you have a dado blade in there. And typically we use a good quality plywood for that, and that works just fine. If you're doing that, carry on doing that. I've seen a lot of comments in the last little while about using laminate flooring, and I don't recommend laminate flooring, and here's why. When they manufacture this stuff, so I'm told, they use all sorts of sort of ground up materials. It just all goes in, and then it gets compressed. There's a very high compression, and when they grind this up, there's everything in there. There's bits of metal, wood, you name it. And what happens if you've ever cut this stuff and you notice that there's sparks coming off it, it's because it's hitting some of the metal in there and creating sparks. So it's really hard on carbide tipped blades. It will damage, or it can damage your blades, and it will definitely make them dull. And if you're not using carbide blades, for example, if you're using your bandsaw to cut a half circle around here, and most bandsaw blades are only steel, it will dull those in no time. So probably there's better choices than finding laminate flooring. So leave the laminate flooring to the floor and get yourself some good quality plywood, some decent quality plywood for your inserts. I got an email not long ago from somebody who wanted to do some gluing of some edge on plywood, and somebody had told them that if you water down the glue, that will do a better job, and he wanted to check with me to see if that was the case. And in fact, it's not the case. I can't think of a reason. There might be something, but I can't think of a reason that you would ever want to water down glue, especially if you're gluing up any wood products. Now, the way of doing, say, an MDF, which this is an MDF product here, or a plywood, they will glue quite readily, but what you need to do is lay down a light film of glue on the surface, let it sit for about 15 or 20 minutes, then come back and put another light layer of glue on, and another light layer of glue on whatever you want to glue it on, and then put those together and clamp them, and that will work very, very nicely. But if you water down glue, you're taking away a lot of the strength that glue has. In fact, you might be taking away all of the strength that it has. So don't water down glue unless you've got a really super good reason to do that. Well, here's a lesson that I learned the hard way many years ago. These are called Gyproc screws, or sheetrock, or drywall screws, and they're a hardened screw, and they're great for using in Gyproc, but when you use them in wood, especially into a hardwood, here's what happens. They snap off. And trying to get those studs out of there after that's happened, it's almost impossible. You have to really dig to get that out. Now, some of you will be saying, well, you need to pre-drill. Well, here's what happens when you pre-drill. There's the hole I just drilled. The same thing can happen. So pre-drilling is not a guarantee that you won't snap off the heads with that. So avoid Gyproc screws whenever you can. Well, here's probably the worst idea I've seen in woodworking, and that's to use two of these so-called chicken's foot push sticks. And I never ever recommend these when I'm teaching my classes on working on the table saw. And here's why. When you use one of these push sticks, just one of them, never mind two, what happens is, especially for shorter boards, when you start off pushing the wood through, the blade is going in that direction. But you can see that as you're pushing wood through, it's driving the wood down. But look at what happens when it gets on this side. Now, that blade is coming up, and if that blade catches that wood on the back side, especially if it gets pinched between the blade and the fence, you have no control because there's nothing here to hold that wood down. There's the proper push stick for pushing wood through a table saw. Now, the reason this is so bad is you have no control. Not only do you have no control on this, now you're also pushing on this side, but you're not pushing up here, you're pushing down here, so you have an even greater chance of pushing the wood against the saw blade, which is going to skew this piece of wood out. So you're having a tendency to do this. So it's just, I can't imagine a worse process. And not only that, I mean, this thing, you can see that these things are not, they're just not precision. They're wobbly. Even if you work hard at them to make them not like that. This is really something to avoid under all costs. When you're pushing wood through a table saw, you only need to push through on the side that's going through, unless it's a big wide piece and you need to stabilize it a bit. But on smaller pieces of wood, you only ever need to push through the pinch area, which is between the blade and the fence. You never have to push on this side. This side will look after itself. It'll just fall off when it goes through. It won't try and kick back. This is the side you need to concentrate on. Well, that concludes my video for today. And of course, there'll be an article on WoodWorkWeb about all of these and lots more things. If you've got questions, you can go to WoodWorkWeb and look up all sorts of things. I think there's something like 5,000 articles or something on there. So lots of information there. I'm Colin Cadet for WoodWorkWeb. Thanks for watching.